In the heart of California, the formidable geographic spine of the Sierra Nevada divides two radically different worlds. Yet, this dramatic landscape serves as the physical and conceptual foundation for the Mono people, whose ancestral homelands span both sides of this divide, reflecting millennia of ecological mastery. The Mono people are fundamentally bifurcated into two distinct ethnogeographic divisions. The Western Mono, or Monachi, historically occupied the lush western Pine Belt foothills, inhabiting the watersheds of the San Joaquin, Kings, and Kaweah rivers. Conversely, the Eastern Mono, recognized today as the Owens Valley Paiute and the Mono Lake Paiute, occupied the high desert environments east of the Sierra Crest. Linguistically, their language belongs to the Numic branch of the Uto-Aztecan language family, sharing deep roots with Northern Paiute. Despite the stark environmental differences separating the lush western foothills from the harsh eastern desert, these two divisions maintained profound economic and cultural ties. While the term Mono likely originated as a Yakutsk exonym meaning flies, referencing the Eastern Mono's dietary reliance on the alkali fly larvae of Mono Lake, these divisions possess their own empowering autonyms. The Western Mono called themselves Nihimyi, Nimi, or Nim, while the Eastern Mono identified as Numa or Numu. Both translate simply to the people. The worldview of the Mono is deeply animistic, recognizing profound spiritual agency within animals, plants, and the very geography of the Sierra Nevada. Their foundational creation story begins in a primeval era where the world was entirely submerged beneath a great flood. The habitable world was formed when three powerful ancestral animal spirits, prairie falcon, crow, and coyote, collaborated to dam the primordial waters in the east. Their monumental efforts allowed dry land to emerge, simultaneously carving out the deep river gorges and valleys of the Sierra Nevada as the waters receded. Coyote occupies a complex pivotal role as an ancestor, creator deity, and the quintessential trickster. It was Coyote who, driven by impatience, opened the basket containing the spirits of the dead, decreeing that the dead must remain in the land of the dead forever. Had he not opened this basket, the Mono believe human beings would have cyclically returned to life every spring, much like the blooming flora. The physical survival of the Mono relied on a mastery of traditional ecological knowledge. For the Western Mono, the California black oak acorn was the paramount dietary staple. In productive years, a single extended family could collect and store upwards of 2,000 pounds of acorns in specialized elevated granaries known as chuckas, heavily lined with aromatic botanicals to repel insects. Processing acorns was a complex biochemical engineering feat. To remove the highly toxic and bitter tannic acid, women meticulously leached the flour. Water was repeatedly poured over the meal through a bundle of conifer twigs, percolating through the porous sand and carrying the toxins away. The purified flour was then mixed with water in a watertight basket and cooked using superheated river stones. Across the mountains, the Eastern Mono anchored their diet on the nutrient-dense nuts of the single-leaf pinyon pine. Extracted from pitch-covered cones, the seeds were roasted in parching trays with live coals. The preparer maintained constant motion, roasting the nuts evenly while preventing the basket itself from catching fire. At Mono Lake, the Kutsataka, whose name translates to brine fly larvae eaters, harvested kutsavi, the pupae of alkali flies that washed ashore in massive windrows. South of the lake, they dug circular trenches around Jeffrey pines to trap piagi, the fat caterpillars of the Pandora moth, yielding a dense, highly prized source of protein. In a pre-ceramic, highly mobile society, basketry represented the absolute apex of material culture and engineering. Mono weavers, exclusively women, created vessels to harvest, transport, process, and cook all sustenance. From massive conical burden baskets carried with a four-head tumbline to Eastern Mono water bottles coated entirely in heated pine pitch, their morphology was strictly dictated by utilitarian function. During the brief summer windows when the high mountain passes were free of snow, these baskets, along with Eastern Mono salt, piñon nuts and precious obsidian from the Mono craters were carried across treacherous routes like Bloody Canyon. The Western Mono facilitated a vast trans-Sierran trade network, exchanging coastal shell beads and acorn flour for these eastern goods. Accompanying this trade was a rich spiritual and auditory life. During the bear dance, a spring renewal ceremony, dancers petitioned the bear spirit for protection, accompanied by the deep rhythmic scraping of wooden rasps. Conversely, the solemn Nimina Ahubia, or cry dance, was an exhaustive overnight mourning ritual where professional singers guided the community through grief, culminating in the burning of the deceased's possessions to aid them to their journey to the spirit world. The mid-19th century brought an apocalyptic disruption. The discovery of gold in 1848 precipitated a massive, unregulated influx of Euro-American prospectors. Mining operations contaminated pristine river systems, while settler livestock completely decimated the native grasslands and oak groves critical to Mono survival. Faced with starvation and displacement, native resistance was met with state-sponsored genocide. Between 1846 and 1873, thousands of California natives were murdered by roaming militias, and thousands more were subjected to forced labor. Conflicts like the Mariposa Indian War of 1851 pushed the Western Mono deeper into the mountains, while the Eastern Mono War of the 1860s resulted in massacres and forced marches for the Eastern Mono. In an attempt to quell the violence, federal commissioners negotiated 18 treaties in 1851, including the Treaty of Camp Barber, which explicitly promised a permanent reservation for the Mono. However, under intense pressure from mining conglomerates, the United States Senate categorically refused to ratify the treaties. Placed under a strict injunction of secrecy until 1905, these lost treaties rendered the Mono legally landless squatters in their own ancestral territories. Pushed to the absolute margins, surviving Mono populations subsisted through meager wage labor on lands they once owned. In the early 20th century, the federal government established small, often marginal trust lands known as rancherias. Despite surviving the devastating federal termination policies of the 1950s, which unilaterally withdrew federal recognition, tribes like the North Fork Rancheria fought back, successfully restoring their sovereignty through landmark lawsuits in the 1980s. Today, the Mono are spearheading a massive renaissance in traditional ecological knowledge, particularly through the reintroduction of cultural burning. For millennia, the Mono applied good fire to clear underbrush, prevent catastrophic megafires, and catalyze the growth of essential plants like the sourberry bush used for basket weaving. Tribal leaders are now actively training a new generation to heal the severely damaged California landscape. Concurrently, tribal activists are using digital technology to save the critically endangered Mono language. Through the Sierra Mono Museum and comprehensive revitalization grants, they're building digital dictionaries and audio archives, bridging the gap between ancient linguistics and modern preservation. The story of the Mono people is not one of extinction or passive victimhood. It is a profound testament to unparalleled endurance and environmental symbiosis. By seamlessly intertwining ancient knowledge with modern resilience, the Mono continue to ensure that their sacred role as the original stewards of the Sierra Nevada will endure for generations to come.